What is up, Byproduct Podcast? I am your host, Ian Pruckner, and it is exciting to be together, getting better together, because when we get better, things get better. And I'm excited to be joined today by my guest, Major Williams. Major, what's up, my friend? So good to see you.
Ian, how's it going, man? Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited about
I'm excited for our conversation today. So, Major, you are a very, very interesting, very driven person. You're an author, 300,000 copies of the digital book sold. That's a pretty amazing accomplishment from one author to another, right? You sell 100,000 books. You're making a difference in a lot of lives. He's a consultant. He's a speaker, a former gubernatorial candidate in the state of California, looking to make change, and a fellow believer and entrepreneur as well. So, Major, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, brother. So let's start out with probably the question everybody wants to know. Why governor in California? Like, what motivated you to say, you know what, this sounds like a great thing for me to do, and I'm going to climb this mountain and take on the powers that be here, and try to make some change, some improvement. What motivated you to do that? What was that thought process?
Ian, it's crazy what a little motivation and frustration would do to you. And during that particular time when I ran in 2022, that was around, after COVID and everything that was happening during those moments here in California. And what I recognize is that although, you have different sides from the political spectrum, I quickly noticed that people were unified in the F word, which is frustration. And I know I was no different. I was a frustrated parent with everything that was happening, but also looked at the political landscape. Before that, I had ran for mayor of Pasadena, so I had already ties politically being in politics. I got the most votes ever for a political candidate in the city of Pasadena. But, once more, it came up short. And so that whole entry into that was just based upon frustration, and then just been tired of the leadership that we've had. But even more so, from a political aspect of it, I was tired of seeing the same old type of candidates over and over and over again. I was like, well, what can be different? And I started asking people if they would consider running for governor. I would give my pitch on why they should do it. I'd be enthusiastic and excited all about it. And at the end of it, they would just say, Major, you should just do it. And it had never even crossed my mind because I just lost a political race, right? But I found out quickly in that industry, it really doesn't matter. It's just about the messenger at that particular moment.
Yeah, that's so incredible. You have a frustration, you see something that needs a change, and you're talking to other people about it, and the consensus comes back like, maybe that should be you. And you're wild enough to say, okay. So what was that process like? So you make the decision. I mean, on the side of the aisle that you're on, that is a different idea, different thinking than the majority of the people out in California. So this is going to be an uphill battle, but you want to bring some change. You're frustrated with where things are. Walk me through the talk track that you've got. How are you convincing yourself to go forward, probably at great cost to you personally, financially, reputationally, and otherwise? You're going into the lion's den for something that you believe in. Most people will talk about it. Very few people will actually act on it and live it, but you decided to live out. I'm going to live my message right now, and I'm going to go and I'm going to try to make change. Talk to me about that decision process. What were those moments like?
Well, the baseline of my mentality is being raised by the type of mother that I had, and also being an actual competitive guy from a sports dynamic, right? So I've always competitive and felt like I can do anything, I can perform in any sport. And so with politics, it was no different. And once I have a certain frustration, or if I have a certain goal, I'm the type of individual that I would just bite down wholeheartedly. And then also, when I feel rejection or someone tells me no, I've made the statement many times, it's basically like you're telling me, yes, keep going, keep pushing forward. Although I know that there was going to be, obstacles, obviously, but I grew up with obstacles, but I also grew up with faith. And when you combine the two, on top of me growing up in the South and just really being close to my grandparents, I always tell the story about my grandfather. His name is L.J. Dean. And this is a true testament, because he came to me in a dream and he basically said two words. He said, step up. It's 3-something in the morning. I woke up in a cold sweat. I turn over, look over at my wife, and I wake her up. she wasn't happy at first because it's 3-something in the morning.
Yeah, that's no good, bro. You were walking in. That was more dangerous than the gubernatorial run right there. That's the truth.
Absolutely. But, once I shared with her what happened, being the person that she is, she grabbed my hands and she instantly started praying for me. And at that particular moment, I just felt this urge that it was going to happen. I had to do it. And I had all the strength and encouragement in the world to go after and do it. So it was multiple things that pushed me to that particular point. One, my competitive edge as an athlete and being raised by a strong mother. But the other aspect of just my faith. I believe in me. And I also love this state so much because it's rewarded me everything that I love about what I've been able to create for my life, including meeting my wife on the third day that I came out to California to visit 25 years ago.
Wow, that's amazing. And so you feel this call to do this. You decide to jump in. What were the 2 or 3 most unexpected obstacles? Like, you probably expected opposition and smear campaigns and all sorts of things, but what were the couple of things that you're like, man, I did not know this was coming until I was in the middle of this? What were those unexpected challenges, and how did you deal with those?
So I would say for me, I don't think anything was unexpected because I'm a movie buff. I've seen all the movies, right? And it's like they were acting out a movie. They were doing everything that I've seen in the movies before. So wow. Although it's never the same quite when it happens to you, because the emotional aspect of it, the psychological aspect of it, as far as being painted a bad person when you've only been a good person your entire life, and then to actually see people believe that you are a bad person because someone else that's probably influential says that you are a bad person, that is a testy, psychological battle to deal with. That's why people say politics isn't for everyone. So although it took me some time to navigate it and process it, but I understood what it was because it gave me a full circle moment to let me know that I'm worthy of criticism only because of my talent and what I'm doing in this particular space. They don't say anything to you or attack you unless you are a viable candidate.
Wow. Yeah, that's so good. And that was actually what I was going to ask you, right? Is how did you deal with that? What was the self-talk? What were your beliefs that said, okay, I'm being lied on right now. Worse than that, other people are believing this nonsense. But yet I believe in the vision and in the dream and the calling enough that I'm going to take a temporary setback, maybe in personal esteem or an ego for the cause. Like, walk me through how you handled that.
Well, for me, it was kind of simple, but it started with the conversation with my grandmother who just passed away last year. Her name is Bobby Dean. And she said that God never gives you more than you can handle. I grew up in church, Sunday school, 3-4 times a week. She said, don't forget your foundation. She said that God would never give you more than you can handle. And my mother used to always say, give your troubles to God because he's always listening. Right. And so everything that helped me and guide me through that particular psychological battle was all faith-based in scripture that was given to me from either my mother or my grandmother. And I just held strong regardless and just continued to plow forward. Yeah.
So in other words, you knew who you were and whose you were, and you were not allowing other people's opinions to define you. Right. That definition was already settled. And I think that that's such a key for our audience listening. A lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people out there, they get told no, people talk bad about them, and it's like they pack up their tent and go home, right? And it's because they haven't settled on who they are. They're letting the people and the circumstances around them dictate to them who they are, what they're worth, and you already have that settled. And that's a foundation that you can build on, right? Because now that that's defined, it doesn't matter what other people's opinions are. They're not the end all be all. You've already got that settled. Talk to me about business and politics, right? So this is sort of like we've been taught in our country, right? You don't discuss this, you don't discuss religion, and very purposefully, right? Because they don't want active dialogue. They want attention everywhere but on what they're doing. But especially for business people, you mentioned the frustration coming out of COVID. And I had a lot of friends that were like, I just don't get involved. My politics are the dollar bill, that sort of thing, right? And it's like, okay, I appreciate that. But I think we saw very, very acutely the role of politics in our daily lives when things don't go as planned, especially local politics, the stuff that people don't care a whole lot about. I'm from Michigan, and we were shut down for 17 months. up in Michigan. I was second only to maybe you guys in California.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was one other state. And I was building this big house, this 13,500 square foot house on the lake that I'd been designing and building for years. And we moved in 2020. We went back to our home in Florida for 6 months. We came back. I flew into Detroit Metro. McDonald's was gone. Starbucks was gone. I'm like, what on earth? And, we had a big home. We had a business there. We had commercial property. We had a lot of stuff. And we sold it all. We said, we're not going to wait around here for another 17 months, see what these guys do. And the state lost a lot of great people to Florida and to Texas and other places. And so, like, what would you say to that entrepreneur, that business leader who's like, this stuff isn't important and I don't need to worry about it? What would you say to them about being civically involved?
Well, hopefully the impact of what happened during that particular time should have hopefully resonated with people in a lot, because if it really is about the dollar, everyone's dollar was affected during those particular moments,
Sure.
And when that happens, you have to make a decision. You have to make an assessment in regards to what your future is going to look like. Either someone like yourself, you say, you know what, I'm going to pack it up and I'm going to go and change my environment and my situation. But for the ones who are willing to stay here, you just have to understand there's going to be a time and period where it's going to be a rough patch and there's going to be a rebuild and a reset type of situation. So you have to kind of be in that particular mindset to weather the storm and just be creative on how you move forward. That's what a lot of restaurants had to do. The ones that decided to stay open, they started, having different type of delivery services and subscription services. So people had to get really creative in order to exist, especially here in California. We lost, just like you guys, we lost tons of people. We said the biggest customer of U-Haul was Californians during that time.
Yeah.
Because there was a mass exodus of not only businesses, but families, local businesses. And when that happens, that changes the whole dynamics of your economy, because those are tax dollars, and also employment drops because those businesses are leaving your state.
Yeah,
so it was a very trying time. Yeah,
they're producers. It's so. What would you say to somebody that's afraid of being civically involved, right? Like, it's like, hey, I serve a client base that is on both sides of the aisle, and I don't want to let that maybe harm the business. What would you say? How do you navigate the fact that you are a business person, but also very outspoken in your beliefs, but not just outspoken, you are out living those beliefs and trying to affect change? Like, how have you navigated that? And what would you say to that person that's maybe been afraid? They've been taught to be afraid to let their voice be heard, to stand for things that matter to them, but also to continue to service people and to love people and to be a good neighbor to everybody around.
I think, Ian, it comes down to the end of what you just said. Just as long as you're being a good servant and serving people and being fair, I think the chips are going to fall where they fall, even if you're being vocal about where you stand politically. But they have a long-standing history of calling you John and Susan when they walk into your business, being greeted with a smile, being greeted with good service. That doesn't change because you found out what political side of the aisle that I'm on. And so for businesses that are afraid, I think that a lot of them are programmed to believe what the outcome would be. You never know what those people are going to react to when it comes to that. There was an owner that had a very similar issue that bought the Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles here in California, a real famous Black establishment. But this family was not a Black family who bought it. But during the election season, they decided to put a blow-up doll in support of Donald Trump. And that gave them a lot of backlash, from racism to rednecks to all type of stuff that happened, right? But they had to lean into it. And that doesn't say that they're bad people or they don't care about the community because they're showing that particular conviction in regards to what they support. Fast forward, they're still here. People are still eating there. It was a rough patch for them, but people are coming around.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot more that unites us than divides us. And I think that, there's a lot of power to be gained by dividing people instead of uniting people. And just being good human beings and seeing those things and showing up, I think is a big deal. So talk to me about Major Williams. How did he get here in life? What are those 2 or 3 maybe defining moments that you can point back to through your life and say, you know what? This was a crossroad and this was a crossroad. These were the decisions I made, and these have really contributed to where I'm at in life and where I hope to be going to the future.
I would say 3 of them. One of them, when I was 14 years old, I was playing basketball in the local projects, and a huge truck came up. An NBA player came to our community and gave away free tennis shoes. At that particular time, I had a big hole in my tennis shoe. But in order to get the tennis shoes, you had to come inside the recreation center. You had to talk to the counselors, the police officers, and watch a video called Dare, which is about drugs and not to do drugs and do crime, right? And so because I obviously wanted a pair of new shoes, I went and sat there. But when I got the shoes, I was so appreciative and so receptive. I listened to everyone, the police officers, the fire chiefs, the counselors that were there, and it really resonated with me. So for the first time in my life, I learned that the world was bigger than my community and my neighborhood, that I could go off to college, that I can go and expand my horizons based upon the stories that they shared in the videotape that they shared with us. So I never did drugs. I never drank alcohol, didn't have any piercings or tattoos. And so I was like 21 years old. And it was because of that particular moment, someone showed genuine interest in me to give me a brand new pair of sneakers when I was walking around feeling embarrassed with a big hole in my shoe. And that was one of the things that changed my life, that made me want to go off to go to college, because that's what they were talking about during those particular moments. And I would say the second moment would be 2001. I came out to California on a visit with some friends of mine. And on the third day in the Foot Locker in Beverly Hills, I met my wife. And I said to myself that day, I have to figure out a way to stay out here. I got to figure out how to get this woman. Like, I got to figure this out. And so those were 2 turning points for me. And then 8 years ago, when I decided to take a leap of faith and run for mayor of Pasadena, becoming politically active and learning more about the local landscape of politics and how it truly affects our lives, the education of our kids, and the communities that we're all coming up around.
Yeah, that's so good. I don't know if you saw that connection, but you got a lot of shoe power in your life, my friend. Those shoes, they're changing your life a couple of times, man. Maybe you got a shoe brand in your future. We'll see. So talk to me about dealing with the losses, right? So a lot of people are afraid to go all in because they're protecting their ego and their image, right? What they're already good at, the things that they've already paid a price to gain respect and authority in. And you sort of have it all out there in the wind, so to speak, right? When you are playing at a high level, like an elected official position, right? Like, it's pretty clear, you win, you lose. And so how did you deal with those losses? How did you take them, and what did you learn from them that's helping you to retool and become a better version of yourself?
Well, I think it's like with anyone. I went through multiple phases, especially after the gubernatorial loss, but also still receiving the backlash of it. So you lose relationships, you lose a little bit of your confidence, you lose a little bit of your focus. And so that was one phase of it. But then for me, it just tapping back into the belief in myself, my belief in how I was brought up in the church, my faith, and then just planting roots with other like-minded individuals that are happy to see you walk into a room. That could change so much in regards to your confidence. When you're walking in and people see you as who you used to see yourself as, they're like, what are you talking about? You better come on with it. Like, we know you're a rock star. Like, get out there and let's do this. And how can we help you? And because of, I guess, my obedience, because I'm a praying guy, like, all the time, literally before we did this interview, 3 minutes before, I spilled my coffee accidentally all over the computer, all over the desk and everything. I was like, why is this happening right now? And I don't know what it was, but it all worked out. Nothing was wrong with the computer. Now we're here doing this interview. So however it works out, I just feel like I'm always favored, because the obstacles are only opportunities for me to learn, to thrive, and to be able to be a testimony for others when things are going wrong. Just look at it as an opportunity that's going to strengthen you for your leadership role, for that project, for whatever it is that you desire for yourself and career.
Yeah. So a lot of people go to great lengths to avoid losing, to avoid being in positions of loss or failure, but it's in the loss that growth occurs. Growth doesn't occur in the victories. It doesn't occur at the top of the mountain. It occurs when you're battling it out by yourself in secret sometimes. That's where the real growth occurs. So you mentioned like regaining that belief in yourself. How did you do that? You mentioned being in an environment, surrounding yourself with people who maybe spoke that back into you, right? And reminded you of who you were. But practically, like when you're down, when you've got that little knock on your confidence, when you're not sure if you can do that again, you're not sure what this means, how are you talking to yourself? What is that belief system that rebuilds that confidence for you?
So for me, I think God uses a lot of symbolism in angels, just like the story with the guy in the ocean, and he lets 3 boats pass because he said he was praying and God was going to save him. Once he passes, goes to the pearly gates, God said, I sent you 3 boats, right? I was helping you. And so I'm always cognizant of those signs. And for me, I was outside one day in our backyard and I was walking around, and my oldest son, Carlo, he walked up to me. And I thought everything was okay, but he asked me with great concern on his face. He said, what's wrong with you? Like, he's never said anything like this because I'm his superhero. I'm like, he adores me, but he had a look of concern on his face. He said, what is wrong with you? I'm like, what do you mean? He said, what's wrong with you? You don't look the same. So when I look down, I got a gut. I've never had a gut in my life. You know, I've been an athlete my entire life and just in shape and fit. And then I guess he saw me looking somber or looking down, and then he's looking at my body. It's changed. He's never seen me look like that before. And that was the moment where I said, his voice and his eyes looking upon me in that way, it changed everything, because I'm used to him looking at me as this superior being, this person that's there for him, there for the family, that has the answers, and that's always stoic, you know, under any type of situation or circumstance. And at that moment, I didn't think he saw me as that. And so for me, that was like some fuel that went back into me. Yeah. And it shined a mirror on me, basically. And it basically just shook me out of my rut at that particular time. Wow. So now 6-pack back, you know, that is back strong. Let's go. But even more so, it was great because he was able to see me commit to something and transition and get it back. And that was a beautiful part too.
Yeah. Boy, that's so good. You know, and I want everybody to hear this. So Major's son was bold enough to speak that out, but they're all watching, whether they say it to you or not, right? Like, that was a very sobering thought to me, right? Like, they're watching, and more is caught than is taught. They're catching from us. How are we going to respond to adversity? How are we going to pick ourselves back up when we get knocked down? How are we going to muster that place inside of us to go and attack our dreams again, even after getting pushed down over and over and over again? They're watching, and they want to know, like, Dad, do I settle? Dad, do I give up? Dad, do I stay down? What do I do? And they look to us for those cues. And in that moment, he spoke that to you, and it was like that fuel, right? But what would you say to the people who maybe their kids haven't said that to them, but they know on the inside, like, they're not living to their full potential? What would you say to those moms and dads right now?
I mean, I would just basically ask you to speak to yourself. Ask yourself the questions. So if you're looking at your life, or you're looking at your career, and you're looking at your business, your service, or whatever, and if it's not where you believe it needs to be, even when it comes down to just your health, right? Or even your mental, if it's not there, ask yourself the question, why am I not at this particular place? Okay, you've asked the question. Well, what can I do to help me inch towards that particular place where I want to get to? But they also have to understand, what I would say is that tap into small victories, creating small habits, which attributes to the bigger picture and also the bigger goal. I believe that it takes a lot of people a longer time to get there sometimes because they're trying to swing and hit a home run. And that's not realistic, right? I mean, so in order to kind of navigate those waters, I would say create a game plan, ask those 2 qualifying questions, those exploratory questions, like, what is it and what can I do? And just start piecing it together day by day, creating those habits to help you navigate out of that particular situation is the best format that I can tell anyone.
Yeah, find a win, right? Find a win and chalk it up. get it done, and have that little bit of confidence, that little bit of belief restored, that little bit of forward momentum, and then that momentum can build. So talk to me about the book. Tell me about the book. Where'd that come from? What's the number one principle if you had a minute to describe that entire body of work? Here's what I want people to know from this.
What I would want people to know is that that book was made from a very selfish place. And what I mean by that is that book was supposed to be made 2 years prior. And I was procrastinating over and over again. And so once I got past the procrastination, I was able to start reaping the rewards of what it actually contributed to that particular space and also the clients that I was working with. But I tell people I didn't know what the success of it was going to be. I did it just to get over my procrastination, right? And so that was my small victory. That was me asking the question in regards to, why have I been talking about this for 2 years? Why haven't I done it yet? So what is stopping me? What do I need? What are the tools? What time do I need to get this done? And then I set a hard limit and a hard time, and I challenged myself, and I did it publicly. I did a video. I said it in front of my family. I said, guys, from this time to this time, I'm going to complete this book. And so I put the pressure on myself publicly and said it. But once it got out, it's designed to inspire people. The whole Motivation brand is a play on my name and also motivation, obviously, but it's meant to uplift, to inspire, and empower those who are at certain levels in their lives and they want to level up. And I do that through sharing my story and the stories of other people that have been successful, in addition to sharing resourceful tools that anyone can use from any particular industry that adds value to their lives.
So, Major, where do they get that book? What's the title of the book? Motivation, right? But they can get it
Motivation, Unleashing Your Inner Drive for Success. Say it again.
Where do they get the book? How can they go get it?
So the book is available exclusively on my Instagram. You can go and follow me at Major Williams. It's in the link in the bio. And like I said, you can send me an email, you can send me a DM, and we'll send you the link also. But it's in the bio section of my Instagram page.
That's amazing. And I love what you said here, right? Because you said it's sort of a selfish project. I put it out because I needed to get it out, right? Like I needed to overcome this procrastination. I needed to prove to myself that I could start this and finish this. And one of the concepts that I love to teach the people that I work with and our consulting, coaching clients is inputs over outcomes. Most people are very outcome focused. They want to lose the weight, but they're not so focused on the daily things they could do to do that. They want to make $1 million, but they're not so focused on what they could do today to do that, right? And most people, they want to write a book because they want to write a book and they want to be an author and they want to make all this money and they want to speak. But you wrote a book because you were procrastinating. You said, well, I just need to show myself that I can do this. And out of that obedience and discipline came something that has impacted a lot of people, right? And so when we're input focused, the outcomes can take care of themselves. So the name of the podcast, Major, is the Byproduct Podcast. I wrote a book several years ago that did pretty well called The Byproduct. And the idea is our lives are the byproduct, not the main product. Everything we have in our life, the quality of our relationships, our health, our finances, those are all the byproducts of what we think, how we believe, and what we do on a daily basis. It's not these big, grandiose things, but it's these little things done daily that create the big wins that everybody wants. And that's what you just described here. Like, I put myself out there, I made a commitment, and I knocked it out day by day by day, if for no other reason than just to overcome me, to overcome my own struggle. And that's where the greatest things, Major, I think are made. They're made out of us growing, not out of our desire to have or be something, but out of our desire to overcome something along the way. So I absolutely love that. What would you say is a parting piece of advice? It's 2025 to all the entrepreneurs and the big dreamers and all the hustlers out there and the people that are trying to make the world a better place and make their life a better place. What is the one thing that you would tell them this year that they need to dial into?
I would tell all the entrepreneurs out there that we are living in one of the best times ever, and that if you focus on learning new skill sets, you have nothing to fear. Obviously, there's a lot of conversations that are going on about AI and technology and robots, but you must understand that you're only going to be replaced if you yourself are not leveling up. This is the era of self-development, reprogramming, and learning new skill sets. And if you're able to adapt and to grow and align yourself with other individuals that are positive thinking and forward driven. This is a time where we're going to see probably the most successful people come from this particular era because of where we are technologically as entrepreneurs. This is the only place where someone like myself can run a gubernatorial campaign from my phone and a laptop and get over 100,000 votes and place 10 out of 41 candidates, right? It's because it's the drive and we have the tools to be able to do that. So my advice this particular year and moving forward, no fear. Learn new skill sets, apply yourself, have faith, and keep pushing forward.
I love it. Major Williams, thank you so much for your time today. It was awesome hanging out with you. Everybody go and follow Major. Major, again, one more time, where can they follow you on Instagram?
Sure, you can follow me on Instagram at Major Williams.
Yeah, so go follow Major right now and then hit that link in the bio. Go grab the book. We all need that motivation, that inspiration, and that retooling. And I love what you're talking about. You know, I see so many people that are wishing for the way things were. And we don't want to be people who are wishing for the way things were. We want to be people who are going to be creating the way things are and the way things are going to be in the future. And we want to be on the front end of that, not on the back end of that. Major, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for your friendship. I'm excited to continue developing our relationship. And until next time, we'll see you soon.